So, good morning. I think we all need a bit of a break after that, don't we? I'm Andy Tobin, I work for Telesign. And I think following on from what Josh talked about, my presentation is really going to be focusing on the practicalities, what we can actually do. What is this kind of compound data thing he described? So I'm going to give some examples of what that really is in practice and what is happening in the world at the moment to try and reduce this attack surface and raise the bar for keeping these fraudsters out. So the user base of large companies has become essentially a new currency. Think of it in terms of a currency. And it's a currency that links that user base to the valuation of the company. A good example would be Facebook, who bought WhatsApp for $19 billion. And a large proportion of that valuation was based on the user base of WhatsApp that they were buying. So as with any currency, there tends to be counterfeit and fake parts of that currency, so fake notes out there. So what I want to talk about really is how to identify and prevent that counterfeiting and faking of the user base. And some stats that Telesign put together from a survey we did last year, which is on the Telesign website, if you want to go and have a look, about the actual size of this problem. So you can read those as well as I can, but there is a clear and increasing problem with fake users, and the way that that can be addressed and the impact of it, I'll cover here. By and large, what tends to happen is that companies put a balance in place between user convenience and security. The early days of the internet, they just wanted to increase their user base regardless, so they put very low friction in place to stop fake people coming in. They just wanted a big user base because a big user base was the way that they would get valued. What's happening now is it's a quality user base as well as the size of it. The quality of the user base is vitally important as well. So if you've got a user base that's populated with a large amount of fraudsters and fakers, then your company valuation is going to decrease accordingly. The forecast that Telesign did based on the survey that we performed, which was about 1,000 companies ranging from a few millions in revenue to a few billions in revenue, showed that if you double the number of fake users on the user base, the value of that user base drops on average 47%. But if you virtually eliminate those fake users, then the value of that user base increases up to 44%. And what are these fakers doing? Well, the majority of them, 30% or so, are sending spam. They're using that social network, that email capability to send spam, and that in itself devalues, particularly in social networks, the value of that user base anyway. If you're constantly getting spam, and we all know what it's like, then you're going to tend to either decrease or reduce that level of activity you've got on that service. So 30% sending spam, 27% of them are stealing confidential information. So there's a high and increasing propensity for fakers to come on and try and get into these services, start sending spam and start trying to steal your data. What's happened is there's become a sort of secondary market in fake user accounts. That market's really pretty active at the moment. I've got some examples here, and I think these are pretty undercalled. So 36 million, the market for fake Twitter followers. The latest manifestation of this is fake advert clicking. So organizations who are selling advertising will get fake users set up to click on those ads and drive up their own revenues. You can also see just the bottom example here in Indonesia. This is a truly international problem. 2 million Facebook likes, fake Facebook likes routed to a presidential candidate. So this is a growing and significant problem. The entry point for fake users tends to be in account registration. It's the gateway that lets the bad actors get in. And why is that? Well, this balance between security and user convenience is the key thing. With trying to, organizations basically trying to allow as many users in as possible. They're consciously making a decision to allow a certain proportion of their user base to be fake. What's been happening more recently is that mobile phone numbers are becoming pretty much the de facto first point of defense for these organizations. We've all seen this, and in fact, many particularly mobile-orientated apps won't let you register unless you're putting a mobile phone number in. Even the non-mobile ones, or the ones that initially came out of the non-mobile space in the first place, they now are collecting mobile phone numbers as you're registering. Why are they doing that? They're doing it to do simple two-factor authentication. So sending an SMS out to you and getting the reply back through an app or directly through the internet browser. And that is actually very simple in terms of the concept. Send an SMS out, make sure there's somebody at the other end of it that's alive and replying back. And that has an immediate effect of raising the bar for the fraudsters. And I'll show you that in a second. But the reason SMS is very, very good is it is, of course, ubiquitous. It works on any phone, and it works globally. It is, well, let's come on to the effectiveness of it. It is highly effective. So when one of our customers puts two-factor authentication in place, we can see an immediate increase in the cost of those fake accounts online. So we measure and monitor the black market. You'd be amazed at what's out there. You can buy 10,000 fake Facebook accounts using PayPal, and you get them all sent down to you in a spreadsheet, all being set up from different IP addresses with fake profiles, and et cetera, set up. And as soon as you put simple SMS 2FA in place, you get that sort of increase in the black market price of these accounts. So that sounds pretty good, 2,700% increase in the price of an email account. There's obviously an effect happening there. But the size of the prize is increasing as well. As we put more of our lives online and put more of our data online, the size of the prize gets bigger. So whilst we can raise the bar up here using simple SMS 2FA, it's becoming more and more important to keep raising the bar. And this is where this compound data idea that Josh was talking about comes into play. You need to get more data elements together to help get that bar even higher up. So SIM farms are the new battleground. If you Google SIM farms, you come across this kind of thing here. Probably not what we expected. What we're talking about is this. If you can see these are individual SIMs in slots. This is an industrial scale units that you put hundreds or thousands of SIMs into. And what are those SIMs doing? Those SIMs are connected up to large computer networks, which are registering online for accounts, putting in the number of one of these SIMs, capturing the SMS 2FA transaction that comes to that SIM, and automatically entering it back in to the user account registration page. Okay, it's getting pretty crafty. What's getting even more crafty is this. They put these in the back of vans, and they drive them around. They go around ring roads or just move them around town. Why are they doing that? They're doing that because they want to try and simulate normal human behavior. They want to present a less artificial dwell location, as we call it. So as these organizations, many of them are clients of Telesigns, are relying more and more on the phone number, and as the propensity to attack is increasing because the value of data that we're all putting online is increasing, it becomes much, much more important to be able to rely on that number at a much higher level of assurance, much higher level of quality. And that means, rather than just, is there a number there and does it receive a text message, you need to know, is that number still active? Is it behaving in a normal fashion? Has it been associated with anything bad in the past? So if we know that there's numbers, like 1,000 numbers moving around these cells all at the same time, it's kind of suspicious. If we're seeing fraud perpetrated on accounts that have been set up with those numbers in the past, that's a pretty clear indicator that those numbers have gone bad. So is there any history with it? Could a number have been taken over by a bad actor? Does it still belong to who it was first registered with? Simple stuff like, has it been reported lost or stolen? And is it where it usually is? Okay? I don't know about you guys, but I came in from the UK and landed in Houston, tried to use my credit card. Within about 30 minutes of landing, got declined straight away. Because why was that happening? Because my card wasn't where it usually is. Right? The banks within themselves have already figured out a way of working out that my card isn't where it normally is. But the thing is, I was actually where my card was, and they haven't quite worked that bit out yet. And that's where some of this compound data comes into it. So we need to get more data on the number to be able to rely on it better. There are two ways of doing that. The first way is behavior metrics and biometrics, but I'm going to be talking mainly about the second way, which is usage and impacting events that happen off-device. So you've got on-device fingerprints, biometrics, and so on, and a lot of the sort of FIDO-type world would sit within that as well. But there's an awful lot that happens off-device. And there are strengths and weaknesses to both of these, but if you bring them together, it becomes very powerful. But the off-device types of data, they work regardless of what sort of phone you've got, regardless of what operating system you've got, regardless of whether it's a smartphone or an old candy bar, and it works worldwide. Whereas a lot of the biometric and behavior metric stuff is very, very specific to the phone you're using. So we've seen quite a few things in the news recently. There's just a couple of bits out of the UK. Moneybox is a very popular program about personal finance. And they had a big article on SIM swapping. What had happened was a lady had a bank account, had a mobile phone account, and somebody had got enough of her online banking details to be able to log in, but they couldn't do anything because she had SMS two-factor authentication set up. So they managed to get into the mobile operator and get the mobile operator to allocate her number onto a new SIM card. Okay, it's called SIM swapping. So the mobile operator shouldn't have done that, but they did, and this was the subject of this. I can't remember which operator it was. I think it might have been a red one. But anyway, the call center agents, I think the fraudster rang up and said, I've lost my phone, I've got a new SIM, can you put my number onto this new SIM? What then happened was, once that swap had been done, that fraudster was then in control of that number. So they were then able to go into the bank account and execute a transfer. When the 2FA came up, the SMS went to the fraudster who was in control of the number. Okay, in it goes, lady was defrauded. Her point was that the mobile operator knew this had happened. So why wasn't the bank talking to the mobile operator? Okay, it's pretty obvious that if they had been, this problem would have gone away. So the focus of this Moneybox program was exactly that, how mobile phone firms can hold the key to bank security. And this is part of this kind of data and identity information in silos that we were talking about earlier on. So there's other examples as well. So it's a very nice picture on the right, which seems to have disappeared. But that was about Twitter still sending messages to phone numbers that have been recycled. So there's millions of numbers in the US and abroad get recycled every year. And what that means is if you don't use your number for a bit, it gets allocated and somebody else can start using it. So if you set up a Twitter account with a number that you had a while ago, let's say it might be a corporate number or something, you're still happily using that Twitter account, merrily using it away, but you've moved firms and you're no longer in control of that mobile number and it's gone to somebody else, another employee. They start getting your two-factor authentication SMSs. You can't change your password anymore because you're no longer in control of that phone number. That's because the number's been recycled. So again, the mobile operator knows that, but you don't. So there is some carrier data that is in really high demand, mobile operator data that is in high demand. There are proven use cases for this already. What is not in high demand is name and address and age, because mobile operators are not really a good source for that information. When you go and set up a mobile phone contract, that mobile phone carrier is typically going to go to a credit reference agency and check your name and address. If you're prepay, then there's going to be no name and address anyway. The age is likely to be invalid as well. Why? It's because it's not fresh and accurate and unique. That data is coming from credit reference agencies. Also, with prepay not needing name and address or age, it's not available for all subscribers. But these other items are. So SIM swapping has the pairing between the phone, the actual handset, the IMEI of the handset, the SIM, and the phone number, that triplet. If that changes, often it could be perfectly legitimate, but often it's an indicator of fraud. Call forwarding is another good example. A fraudster could get into, trick their way into my mobile phone operator and ask them to forward my calls to another number because I've lost my phone. At that point, calls from my bank go to that number. Deactivation, so that's the recycling issue. In the US, there's a particular, and actually in the UK as well, particular laws against unsolicited communications. And if you get what you think is a brand new number and you're suddenly getting somebody else's text messages coming in, that can be $500 per text message received that the originator will get fined. So there's a big problem with that. Tenure. If it's a brand new account set up, it's likely to be more risky than a contract account that's been paid for 10 years. Activity is important. So is the number just receiving text messages? It's not making calls, not receiving calls, not sending text messages. That's going to be quite suspicious. And account type, there is a difference between prepay and postpay as to the level of risk associated with them. And these data points, the mobile operators, they will have them. And they can be used both in a push and a pull scenario. So with push, as soon as a number gets deactivated, if the operator could push that to a social network who has that number registered with them already, that would be really useful rather than waiting for something bad to happen. So we've got this situation where there's some really great, unique, fresh, accurate, hard-to-fake data at mobile operators. And by and large, it's all kind of sitting there. It could be preventing lots and lots of problems. There are some success stories out there before I go into why it's not working generally. So in the US particularly, all the mobile operators already share recycling information. So if a number gets recycled or discontinued, that gets pushed out. So you can take that, process it, and do something with it. AT&T have got some great APIs they've already put together, and they put them in two different types. There's APIs that need explicit user consent and APIs that don't. Very well documented, fantastic services already there. Telefonica, which owns O2, they are leading the pack in Europe with some really innovative services around roaming. So for example, as soon as I land somewhere and turn my phone on, which is the first thing pretty much we all do, they can push a message out to whoever has subscribed to receive that service to say that you've just landed. So in my case where I landed into Houston, if my bank had subscribed to the service offered by these guys, they would know that I just landed in Houston. They could enable my card straight away. They could send me a text message saying, "Hi there, Andy, we see you're in Houston, your card's ready to go." And I would then use that card. It would go to top of wallet, and I'd be off and running, and they'd be getting the interchange revenue from that. So that's a really good customer service point. And Swisscom, sorry, go back one. Swisscom is another excellent example. They're really far ahead in terms of they're using their data for identity purposes. But what's holding it back, essentially, is the problem of consent, which is just getting vastly too complex. I just had a couple of screen grabs, Windows 10 on the left and iOS on the right. Just as examples, consent is becoming so complex, and the carriers tend to be just very, very wary of it. And they're wary of it because users are seeing their data being abused, and they haven't really realized that there's this opportunity for their data to protect them and keep them safe online. And if it was possible to articulate that in the right way, then I think we'd have a very, very different picture. So, a simpler approach to consent might look a bit like this. Dear Andy, would you like us to use your data to keep you safe online? Yes, thanks, I'll have some of that. Would you like us to sell more of the things, so I might have brand loyalty if it's, I'm into motorbikes, so Ducati, I'm quite interested in them, telling me about stuff. So yeah, I might have that one, but no, please don't send my data out to other third parties that will try and sell me their stuff. But if you've got stuff, data that will keep me safe, then you should be sharing that. And I think this compound approach that Josh was referring to, this is actually a real example whereby you have data that is sitting there that could be used by mobile operators to keep their customers safe online while they're using another service. And getting that right is not really as difficult as it seems to be made out. So it's been very slow going. I've done a lot of work with mobile operators around the world trying to get this message nailed, and it's getting there. It's another example. Janet Hughes was talking about the UK Verify program, which is the government identity initiative, which outsources identity proving to third parties. And there's an issue with that program at the moment, the approval rate could be higher if the identity providers were able to get activity and tenure information from mobile operators. So you've got a situation there where I'm trying to get an account to do my taxes online. I can't get an account because I'm not able to give evidence of a long-term relationship with my mobile operator and normal human-like activity. So I, as the user of both the Verify system and my mobile operator, am essentially being denied a service because those two guys aren't talking together. So we need to get to a situation where the mobile operators see this as a customer service opportunity. Okay, their customer isn't they're not making a call or they're sending a text, but their phone has become an intricate part of other services that they're using online. And they haven't quite realized that. We need to get them over that hump. If they do realize that, then the opportunity is for the operator to pass some information with obviously my consent to the government identity provider, and they can then give me the account, and I can go on and use the online services that we need. So the messaging that we have to the carriers at the moment is which would you rather be out of these two? Okay, would you rather be the organization that's helping your customer to stay safe online, or the one that's letting fraud and really quite harmful hacking and account takeovers take place and not do anything about it? Because the data exists to stop the thing on the right happening. Okay, in real time, if a bank sees a transaction that comes in that's a bit suspicious, if they were able to share some signals with the mobile operator, say, have we seen anything strange with this? Oh, the SIM has just been swapped. Then do that real time, a couple of seconds, do that check, and get the response back. Okay, the SIM has been swapped. Now, it might be perfectly legitimate. Got a different phone that I'm using, for example, but at least the bank can actually do something about it. So I think where we're getting to with this is going from Josh earlier on to reality. We've got a real situation here where there is excellent data sitting in a silo here, and we need to get it to various other silos, and we need a mechanism to do that is simple, and it includes a sensible approach to consent, which people understand, and the result of it is that it results in a much higher bar for the fraudsters to overcome. They're already getting there with two-factor SMS. We need to keep increasing that bar. So being able to break down these silos and share this data in a more effective way is going to be the key to reducing a lot of this fake account activity and fraud. And that is it. Thank you very much.